Okay, we're on chapter 24. Remember, Mikkel is gonna come to his house so he can show her his comic. And he's kind of nervous because he's never had anyone come to his house before. All right, so chapter 24 is called My House. I didn't have time to mow the lawn. Because of Grandpa's back, it was my job, and as usual, it looked terrible. But Mikkel texted that she was on her way. I only had a few minutes. So I tried to pick up any garbage lying around, roll up the hose, and push anything else out of sight around the side of the house. Of course, the Hulk wanted some attention while I was outside, so I let him run around. The neighbors' chihuahuas must have spotted us because they started yapping through their front window. The Hulk barked back. This could go on forever. What a great first impression. I glanced up the road to see if she was coming. I had looked at this street a million times, but this time I saw it with different eyes. And I'm not talking about Danny's cornea. My neighborhood wasn't nearly as nice as Mikkel's. I noticed every rickety mailbox, every weedy lawn, even every junker car in a driveway. And of course, the houses were a lot smaller, flat and simple patterns, run down and old. Even the roads weren't as well maintained. And coming down the center of it was Mikkel on a dark red mountain bike. It looked expensive. She slowed and jumped off as she reached my driveway. I've never been in this neighborhood, she said, panting and looking around. I know, it's kind of junky, I admitted. No, she said, it's just older. I bet when these houses were built, this was the coolest place to live. Close to the middle school, close to the library, close to McDonald's. I chuckled, but McDonald's made me think of my mom. And she had texted me again and said that she would take me out to eat sometime this week and catch up. We'd probably go to McDonald's, if it ever happened. Come on in, I said, hoping to ease the embarrassment by getting her away from the unmowed lawn. At least Grandma kept flowers planted along the house. I opened the door and stepped in. Grandpa had the afternoon shift, so I didn't have to worry about him. At least, no one would try to tell Mikkel any super long football stories. But I could hear water running in the kitchen. I had poked my head in and told Grandma that a friend would be coming. She seemed excited. I wanted to ask her not to embarrass me, but that would have probably backfired on me, so I didn't bother. You don't have to take off your shoes, I explained as we came in. Mikkel had started to slip them off. The carpet was like 50 years old, and for the first time in my life, I realized I could smell it. Dusty, musty. I wanted to apologize and send Mikkel home. The water stopped, and Grandma came in the front room. I thought I heard voices. Flint, who is this? She reached out her hand. This is Mikkel, I said. Very nice to meet you, Grandma said, and aren't you prettier than socks on a rooster? That's a good thing, I assured Mikkel. This is my grandma, Elizabeth. My grandma, Elizabeth. I hoped my face didn't turn red. My grandma had her same wispy appearance and hadn't changed out of her Holiday Inn uniform yet. Nice to meet you, Mikkel said. If she was disgusted, she didn't show it. We're just going to grab something, I said, in my room. I pointed down the hall. I could see Grandma's mouth open, so I beat her to it. We'll leave the door open. She nodded her approval, and I pulled Mikkel out of the front room and down the hall. My room. I hadn't checked my room. What did it look like? Maybe Mikkel should stay in the kitchen with Grandma, and I could bring the comic out to her. But I'd already said we'd be going to my room. I kept leading the way. I panicked when I saw my clothes from yesterday on the edge of the bed. I grabbed them as quickly as possible as we walked in, but felt something under my foot. I looked down and saw I was standing on yesterday's underwear. Where are your parents? Mikkel asked. I threw my clothes in the open hamper across the room. It's crazy that I've answered this question my whole life, and it still feels awkward every time. My dad left before I was born. I don't know him at all, and my mom isn't very good at being a mom, so my mom's parents are kind of like my parents. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying hard to hook my underwear with the toe of my shoe without being too obvious about it. She sat on my bed, and I was so grateful that Grandma had me make my bed that morning. For once, I was glad I'd done my chores. You live with your grandparents? Cool. Your grandma seems nice. I glanced down quickly. Got it. I slowly brought my foot up like I was going to sit cross-legged and pulled my underwear off my toe and wadded it up into an unrecognizable ball in my hand. When she's not being bossy, I said, walking to the hamper this time. I didn't want to miss and have my underwear flop all over the floor. She didn't seem bossy, Mikkel said. Besides, most parents are bossy. It's part of being a parent. If they just give you money and made your meals, they'd be your bank. They'd be your bank and restaurant, not your parents. She laughed a little. She'd probably gotten that from an adult. I doubt I'd heard anyone say anything like that at school, not even Mikkel. Middle school rule. Cool kids don't defend parents or teachers. I moved from the hamper to my desk and grabbed a stack of papers. This is it. It's stupid. I handed over my comic. And some of the art is bad. I couldn't see well with my eyes, and my glasses didn't help enough. The words sounded pathetic as they tumbled out. Mikkel grabbed her end of the stack of papers, but I couldn't let go of mine. What if she thought it was awful and told everyone? I mean, I already knew that it had problems. I can see how bad it is now that I have my good eye, so I might not enter it into the contest. More rambling. I let go and took a step back. Either way, it won't win. It's not finished. Not entirely. The ending has more. She shushed me. Stop talking so I can read. I put my back against the wall and watched for a minute. When she flipped the first page, I slid down the wall and sat with my arms wrapped around my knees. I felt wound up, like my insides were stuffed into a space only half as big as it should be. She laughed, and I knew exactly what joke that was. She flipped through a few more pages and gasped and chuckled in all of the right places. At one point, she looked up from the comic to see me just sitting there, staring at her. I'm sure I had a big, dumb smile on my face. I'll go get us a snack or something, I said, jumping to my feet. I didn't want to sit there awkwardly watching her as she read. She nodded. My grandma was in the kitchen working on dinner when I got there. Her old laptop was open on the counter. She must have been looking up a recipe. You look as happy as Grandpa when Big Red wins. I didn't know what to say to that. Grandma smiled. She seems real nice. She is, I said. Grandpa would want me to tell you to treat her well, Grandma said. And he would tell you some story of someone who didn't treat some woman well and how shameful it was. I nodded. I'll pretend he told me the stories and I'll live by them. I peered in the pantry. Can I make a snack? I asked. It's almost didn't. Grandma didn't finish. She looked at me for a moment, then glanced down the hall. Yes, she said. Once I got back, I felt embarrassed that all I had were cracker sandwiches. But I'd said I would get a snack, so I had to come back with something. Mikkel took one from the plate. It's good, she said. It's just peanut butter and saltines, I said. I mean the comic, she said. It's really, really good, she corrected, nodding to accentuate her point. It's not as good as it should be, I said. Are you kidding me? She asked. I think it's great. And she emphasized great. I mean, look at this. She held up a page with Squint soaring and fighting against Gun. This looks fantastic. The colors are fun, the characters are interesting, and I love where the story is going. You could make people pay to read this kind of stuff. Her voice was a little louder. I tried to figure out if she was really as excited as she seemed. No way, I said, not even close. My cheeks felt hot. Well, to you maybe, Mikkel said, but not to me. I can't figure out what they're going to do next, so it's interesting. She made me wonder if it was too critical of myself and my story. But the best part is the Diamond Girl. Whoever came up with her is brilliant. I laughed. A straight-up genius, for sure. Mikkel's voice got a little softer. I hope she ends up helping Squint out. Me too, I said. Neither of us said anything for a moment. He had to squint to get a glint. Mikkel started, bobbing her head with her beak, and put in his heart to start. But now with his new eye he tried, and the new comic, she paused, her eyes looking to the side. The new comic, she repeated. Yeah, good luck rhyming with that, I said, trying to think of options and not coming up with anything. Oh, I can rhyme with it, she said, just nothing good. Balsamic, economic. The new comic is economic doesn't sound very cool, you know? She turned her hands up. Wait, got it. She stood up straighter. With his new eye, he tried, and the new comic is atomic. She nodded in approval and then made an exploding noise. It's a good thing to have an atomic comic, right? I asked. Definitely, she said. You might just win this contest. Thanks, I said. There really isn't much of a chance. Plus, I'm going to have to work like crazy to finish it. You might surprise yourself, she said. I wanted to bring up our deal, the challenges, but I didn't. Maybe, I said. She looked down. Oh, yeah. Now it's my turn. Okay, that's chapter 24. All right.